Welcome to the Miller Report. Today, I'm going to announce this is my 100th episode on the Miller Report. Thank you, WABC. Thank you, everybody, for supporting me and all my listeners. And today, for that, we are going to have what the whole world is waiting to hear from today's guest. That I can promise you. I don't just mean New Yorkers. I mean the entire world is watching. Friends, listeners, the future of New York City is on the line. An historic election is going to take place this November 4th. So without further ado, I want to announce our 100th guest, Mr. Mayor Eric Adams.
Thank you. 110th mayor on the 100th show. Exciting. Glad to be here. I was number what? When was I first?
You were number 34.
Wow. Look
Yeah,
at
I think then we had maybe 200,000 listeners tops. Now we're at over 7.5 million.
Wow.
So people like podcasts. They've gotten a lot used to it. They get their news. You never know where to get news from. So podcasts have become more popular.
And it's a long format. And I was just talking to the team today because, there are campaign finance board authorized debates. We need to stop only having the usual suspects doing it. Podcasts are receiving such a large number of audiences. You should be part of those decision makers of who's doing the debates as well.
That's great. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Mr. Mayor, you have inherited a city after COVID, 236,000 migrants, federal investigations, which are still going on even today. I mean, you almost went to jail. How are you doing?
Well, I think that I am a resilient New Yorker with grit. And nothing personifies that more than when you look at from COVID to, as you stated, 237 migrants and asylum seekers. We were getting about 4,000 a week at one time, 8,000 every 2 weeks. And to watch us navigate that, then as the president pointed out on his campaign trail, to experience the lawfare. Many people never read the indictment of what I was charged with. I was charged with making sure, reaching out to the fire department commissioner and asking him to do a building inspection, not to pass, just to do a building inspection. And when you look at the text messages, you hear me saying, if you can't, let me know and I'll manage their expectation. The president of Turkey was coming here. We had a building that they were trying to get inspected so they can get their ability or the right to let people in. And they connected that with leg room on Turkish Airlines, which I paid for my flights, but asking for upgrades while I'm on the flight. I was able to get upgrades as the
mayor
president.
Can't go first class. Where are we?
Right. Mayor of the largest city on the globe. And so clearly it had nothing to do with people know there was no gold bars. There were no bags of cash.
Right.
This for the mayor of the city of New York to have to go through that for 15 months and, looking at, were there people who were volunteers on my campaign? I had hundreds of volunteers, hundreds. We did hundreds of fundraisers. And everyone knows in these campaigns, you have people who make mistakes in documentation, do things that are straw donors. But we were clear, follow the rules. And, some people disappointed me. They were volunteers. There were no staffer that was ever charged with anything improper. There was no evidence that showed any of my campaign staff did anything wrong. And so it was just straight lawfare. President Biden said the Justice Department, under his Justice Department, was politicized. President Trump stated it. I stated it. Brian Benjamin, the highest ranking African-American in the state, they brought him up on charges, dropped the charges, destroyed his political career. And so you just have to be resilient. I got up every day and I did my job.
Brooklyn boy. So I'm glad you said that because I wanted to take a moment for our audience to hear a little bit more about you personally. Everybody asks you about your campaign and all of these charges and what you do as a mayor, but I think it's really important with this upcoming election that our audience gets to know who you are, Mayor. Like, tell us some of your interests, one or two things about you that people don't know so they can get to know who our mayor is.
Well, first of all, I think you're right. And what's good about podcasts is that you have an opportunity to have these long-form conversations. And, we're addicted to podcasts now. We enjoy, because you could dig into the crevices of a person. You look at Eric Adams, and I'm defined through sound bites, being the mayor, the second mayor of color, to be the first person of color to be borough president, to be a state senator, a captain in the police department. Like, that's my glory. That's not my story. My story is growing up in South Jamaica, Queens, born in Brownsville, and walking into the classroom every day and look at the back of the chair where the other children would write dumb student on the back of the chair, and getting up and praying every day. God, don't have me read, because if I read throughout the entire day, I would be mimicked and laughed at, because I had undiagnosed dyslexia. I didn't know I was dyslexic until I got into college, and I learned that I was dyslexic, and I was able to get the assistance that I needed. But it's also grown up watching mom do 3 jobs and struggle, watching my sister losing her childhood because she had to babysit for her 5 siblings, while mom on her arthritic knees would do Amstead Daycare Center in the day. She would go clean other people's homes in the afternoon, and then overnight she would clean office spaces. Never complained. No matter what she had to do, she would get up and do it. And that is something that gave me the lesson. And then, struggling throughout my years, fortunate to become a police officer, loved the job, loved being a law enforcement officer. And you have a different love affair with the city when you wear a bulletproof vest for 22 years and protect this city.
We're going to get into that, but I do want to go back because it's such a big issue right now. Today, there are more charges put against you, and I feel for you, and I want to take this time for you to tell our audience, those people that may have concerns, those people that are on the fence, that are hearing all these things, they hear about all of these scandals, they hear about your relationship with the White House. I want you to talk to those people and tell them from your mouth, if they're sitting on the fence about all of these things, what would make them overcome their concerns and trust Mayor Adams?
Okay, first, we don't have any charges against us. There was a lawsuit that was filed.
Good.
By a disgruntled employee, baseless. When you read it, you have to ask yourself, what are you saying here?
What was he there for a minute?
Exactly right. He was there for 3 months.
Wow. And
we tried to find a space after he left the police commissioner role. We tried to find a space for him, and the attorneys will map that out. But also, you can't help but to see this is a political season.
Oh, yeah.
He was gone for 7 months. Why now? So you got to take all of this into perspective. What I must do is say to New Yorkers, the city I inherited, COVID, migrants and asylum seekers, crime, businesses not here, not developing housing, not educating our children, and then do an analysis of where we are now. More jobs in New York in the city's history. More small businesses are operated in the city's history. In individual years 1, 2, and 3, we build more housing in individual years in this city's history. And when you do an analysis of it, by the time we finish with all of our rezoning and other initiatives, we're going to have more housing than Mayor Bloomberg, 12 years, Mayor de Blasio, 8 years combined.
We're going to get into that very specifically because, as you know, I'm a real estate person to begin with. Politics, I always say the Miller Report is about politics and real estate because without value in real estate, it all is tied with politics. Mm-hmm. So what would you say has been your biggest accomplishments during your tenure as mayor?
Public safety. Public safety is a prerequisite to prosperity. I like to say it's the economic stimulus package. I learned that from serving under Bill Bratton, that public safety is the key. And to look at the last 6 months, we had the lowest number of shootings and homicides in the recorded history of the city. People are back on the subway system. We have 4.6 million people on our subway every day. We only have 5 felonies a day on our subway system. Out of 4.6 million. That is an important accomplishment because the subway system is the lifeblood of the city. So if you were to point to all the things that I'm proud of, I ran on a public safety agenda, and I'm providing that we must be safe in our city. If we're not going to raise healthy children and families.
So I think with everything going on in the world, the voters are looking for transparency. And if you had to look within and critique yourself on some of the things you wish you'd had done differently, or that you could improve on and that you want to still get done, what would that be?
Well, first of all, I'm perfectly imperfect.
No, we thought you were perfect.
If you want to find perfection, I'm not the one, but you'll find dedication. I am committed to this city. I'm an authentic New Yorker.
Yes. And
no one is perfect in this city. But, you make mistakes. And throughout my life, I've made a lot of mistakes. And I made mistakes and false or improperly trusting some people's character, and we recover quickly. And
we always make that mistake. We all do.
I always tell people, when you get to my age and you look back over the people who break your heart or did things that are disappointing, I don't care if it's someone you lend money and a friend and it caused a crash in that friendship, someone you let stay at your house and all of a sudden they become the America guest, don't want to leave. I mean, life is about errors. And those who have not had those errors, it's difficult to run a city this complex because you don't really understand that any given day in this city, anything could happen. And I think my life as a police officer and my life as my personal journey allowed me to do so. So I think that, dropping the ball from time to time, there are days I wish I would have gotten out of bed and days I wish I would have stayed in bed.
So what do you want to accomplish over the next 4 years?
Well, so important. Finish the job. We put $30 billion back in the pockets of working class people. No income tax for low income New Yorkers at all. What we've done on excusing medical debt, number one cause of bankruptcy. What we've done in reducing the transit fare. What we've done in reducing the cost of child care from $220 a week to less than $20 a week. We found ways of seeing how government can make it more sustainable to live in the city. And we have other things we want to do, everything from student loans. I want to continue to drive down crime the way we have. Then I want the city to become a smarter city. Artificial intelligence is going to allow us to process permits faster. Blockchain is going to allow us to use blockchain through our medical records, our birth certificates, all these other entities. I want the city to open up and become a smarter city so taxpayers can get a better investment on their dollars and it becomes less costly to run the city.
The biggest election news today that everybody's following, no matter where they are or live, is the primary win by Zoran Mamdani. And you've been a police officer. You've been a state senator. You've been a borough president. You are now the mayor. What do you have to say to your opponent who wants to run a city of 8.5 million people, a staff of 350,000 with no experience?
Well, think about it for a moment. And this is not a knock on young people. It is about continue to elevate as you move forward and what your expectations are. You pointed out that I'm the mayor, I was a borough president, I was a police officer, but go further back than that. I was a dishwasher. I was a person that worked in the mailroom, person that worked in the stock room, person that was a mechanic. I was a delivery person. So there's a series of jobs that got me here, and each one of those jobs helped me understand even more of what I had to do. And it's a far cry of if you are someone that really is not aware of the complexities of all of those employment. For a city like New York is a complex place. And I keep telling people over and over again, New Yorkers have 5 fingers. They love the middle one the most. They will tell you how they feel.
You know what I say about New Yorkers? I say that no matter where you live, you've made your money in New York. New York is the financial capital, and everybody no matter what they say, this is where songs have been. This is the place.
Exactly. But it's also the place where you could be a dishwasher and then own a chain of restaurants. It's a place where you could not understand English, but then you could open up a chain of English speaking schools. It's a place where you could work in a mailroom and then be the mayor. Dreams come alive in this city, and I've been all over this globe. And I know that many cities don't offer you the opportunities of dreams coming alive. You make it here, you can make it anywhere.
I think there was a song like that. So, Mr. Mayor, what is the risk of the mayor of New York not working with Washington?
It's huge, and this is you tell a lie long enough, you start to believe it's true. There was a lot of word out there that there was some quid pro quo between the President Trump and Mayor Adams. And if you do an analysis, you look at what I was saying pre-election, and then look at what I was saying post-election around the migrant and asylum seeker issue, you'll see it's the same thing. The same thing. And I didn't know President Trump. We both lived in this city, but I never met him until he was running for mayor the second time. This time. And he was on the campaign trail saying, this is wrong what they're doing to Mayor Adams.
That's not what I'm asking, excuse me. I'm saying that, isn't it better for the city? I remember Donald Trump when he was running, he said, it's not so bad to get along with Putin. Is it so bad for the mayor of New York to get along with Washington? Why are people criticizing you for that?
Well, and that's what I wanted to break down, because I wanted to give an analysis of how we got here. And my relationship with President Biden was the same with this president. My relationship with President, I think people in his cabinet did wrong things, but President Biden came to this city when I asked him to deal with violence, and we needed an ATF head of ATF. He came here, spent the day with us, visiting the police department, crisis management teams. And when I needed something for the city, I was able to reach out and get something for the city. That's the same here. The president of the United States, if I disagree with the president, we're going to disagree respectfully. And I'm not going to be at war with him. But when I needed him, we had a multi-billion-dollar project in Sunset Park, 1,500 union jobs, 500,000 households were going to be receiving electricity and energy from there. It was a wind farm. The president didn't agree with the wind farm. Their team did a stop work order. I flew to Washington, sat down, spoke with the president. The president lifted the stop work order, and the job's in place. So will you agree? You agree. Will you disagree? You disagree. You have some people in this city, I don't care, no matter what the president does, they're going to want to be in a hostile relationship, and that's not what I am. I'm true. I'm a Democrat, true blue, but I'm true red, white, and blue. I believe in this country because my family members served in this country in the armed service as I served in the police department.
One of your opponents, Zoran, promises a rent freeze on 1 million rent-regulated apartments. I saw this early on, and I remember talking about this and saying in 1 million apartments, 2 million people live, 1 person per home, correct? So 563,000 people came out to vote for him. Do you think this was a key point in his winning the primary election?
Well, the first order of business is to understand a fraction of percentage of voters came out. We have to fully understand that because many people are not grasping that. 2.5 million Democrats didn't vote, 1 million independents, and several 100,000 Republicans have yet to vote. They're going to have an opportunity to ask the question of what do we want our city to look like. We know that there's an issue around, it's tough for everyday working class people to live in the city.
Absolutely.
And the reason I know that is not because I studied it in college. I grew up in poverty. I know what it is when someone gives false promises to families, as I saw my mother receive false promises. What we must do is come up with real solutions to help New Yorkers, and that's what I was talking about, $30 billion placed back in the pockets of New Yorkers, like no income tax.
But you will agree that it is a real concern for young voters or working class people to have affordable homes.
Without a doubt.
So a lot of them have voted just because you talk to a young kid today and their rent goes to 60% of their salary. So they can't afford to live here. And we have not done a good job on that. There's not enough housing. We have a shortage. 485X was a good try, but did not really address the issue. So why don't you take this time to tell those young voters what we're going to do to address one of the key issues about housing so that people can have some hope?
Well, the most important thing that we must do, as you just stated, we're on the same page, not enough housing. So what do? We passed the most comprehensive housing reform to rezone our city to build more housing. We broke records in building affordable housing. Now, who's in charge of 485X? Who's in charge of renewing 421A? Who's in charge of really encouraging the building that you're talking about? Albany. Who's in Albany? Assemblymen. Who is Mondani? An assemblyman. He failed in Albany. And now you're going to come to New York? That was your job in Albany.
But he's making these promises, so you're saying he can't deliver?
Yes, without a doubt.
So you're saying he's making these promises to young voters, which I believe has been a key issue in getting him to win the primary, and you're saying he doesn't have the power to enforce this.
Well, let's look at one of his top promises, his promise to free buses.
Right.
The cost of free buses will cost $3 billion. $3 billion. So he states that this is how I'm going to raise that $3 billion. I'm going to do an income tax on 1%, the high 1% of New York earners. Mayors can't do income tax. You know who can do income tax? Assemblyman. He's an assemblyman. If he didn't do it in Albany, why does he believe he can do it here? He says, well, I'll figure out a way to do it. The governor already stated she's not raising income tax. We're the highest, outside of California, our state is the highest tax in the country. And so when you promise things that are your foundation that you know you can't deliver, then you're basically making false promises. And that's the worst thing you can do to a working class person. His policies must understand what's the long-term impact on the city. Like the government grocery stores, you're going to devastate independent grocery store owners, bodegas, small shops, in my Korean community, my Chinese community, my Dominican community. Working class people, particularly the immigrant population that have come here, they have built these small businesses. That's why we have the largest number of small businesses. Under my administration, we opened 40,000 new retail shops. 11,000 of them are small bodegas and small independent stores.
So today he wants to take away the rights of billionaires. Next week it might be millionaires. The week after it could be Christians or it could be Jews. What do you say about this?
Well, what he wants to do by saying that no billionaires should be in our city, this is not understanding the economics of running the city. This city has a financial ecosystem. And what we must do is ensure the person who drives the limousine has a healthy life and a person who sits in the back seat of the limousine must have a healthy life. Because when that ecosystem is functioning, then our high-income earners are going to restaurants where you have employees that are there who are dishwashers, cooks, bartenders, busboys and girls. They're using discretionary money to put into our museums where you hire thousands of people in those places. They open their businesses and shops. So if that ecosystem is not thriving, we don't have police on our street. We don't have teachers in our schools. We don't have firefighters. If you don't understand the full scope of the ecosystem, then you can make these comments. But when you have to balance that $115 billion budget and only have $30 billion that's discretionary and tax revenues that's coming in is important to it, like real estate taxes, you'll make a big mistake and you can't provide for those working class and low-income New Yorkers.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I believe real estate taxes make up about 40% of our budget in New York, so we want to get rid of these people.
Yes.
But let's go back to crime and public safety, which you've done a very good job. Crime statistics have absolutely improved under your administration, and we know we have to still do work.
Yes.
But what do you say to your opponent who wants to replace police officers with social workers?
Well, it's a couple of things. If that was the only thing, then we could debate over that. But when you add that with defunding the police department, when you add that with telling police officers they should not respond to domestic violence incidents, which is one of the most dangerous incidents a police officer can go on. When you add that with emptying out Rikers Island, we have 7,400 inmates at Rikers Island, and they're the most dangerous of the criminals in the city because bail reform is difficult to get on Rikers Island. When you say now you're going to empty out, so do an analysis of that. The policies are hurting working class people. Because if you committed crimes in this city, for the most part, you did it in low-income communities. Now you're putting people back in low-income communities. When you say government-run grocery stores like in Cuba and Venezuela, now you are hurting those middle-income small businesses that are in place. When you talk about defund police officers, you are hurting those officers who are patrolling our communities by not adding to them. So these policies are hurting working class people, and we need to be clear on that.
I'm sure you've been asked this before, but with all of his services and free services and buses and childcare and freeze on rent, what services are you going to have to cut out of your $115 billion budget to take care of these things?
Well, first of all, that in order to have a $115 billion budget, you must have money coming in.
Yeah.
And if you're running away high income earners, when you are running away those who are in the city, then you're not going to have that money to come in. There is a balance here. And I understand how people are feeling about, it just seems as you can never get ahead and make ends meet. I know what that is. I felt it and I lived it in a real way. But if you don't govern this city correctly, you can put it in some serious economic and public safety dangers.
So I do agree with you. And I too am empathetic for those working families that are trying to get ahead. But the services will be cut. And I cannot think of one city, and maybe you could enlighten me, where socialism has worked. Mm-hmm. Can you name one city or one place that socialism has worked?
No, I can't. It is a failed experiment. And I understand that many people, when they hear the terminology, they embrace it. And that's why it's important not to get caught up on that terminology. Because you do a poll, 70% of New Yorkers feel socialism is a good thing. So I'm not going to try to debate with that. All I know is this. I've been to Cuba. I've been to Venezuela. I know what ration books looks like. I know when they talk about you're going to have one item per day or per week. So I know what the benefits of this city in the form of government that we're under. And people often say, well, I'm doing bad right now. And the term bad is relative.
I think nobody will argue that it's not just going to affect the wealthy. It's going to affect the working class. It's going to affect everybody. If services go down, we're all going to feel it. We're in one pot together. Businesses that are here already won't give up their leases, but will new ones come in? Will tech come in? Will tourism continue? If the city is not bringing in new business, won't we be failing?
And that's the question that New Yorkers must answer. That's the question that's on the ballot this year. The question that's on the ballot is, do you support the police or you want to defund police? Do you support small businesses or do you want government to run those businesses? Do you support making sure that we can increase and continue to drive down unemployment? Or do you want people to believe that they don't have to be employed? So these are the questions that's on the ballot. And I think you started the show saying that this is the most important race that our city is going to have.
I think in the country. In the country, as I say, if New York City gets a cold, you're not safe anywhere else.
That's well
New
said.
York City is New York City is New York City.
Well said. Well, look at New York, and Google Los Angeles, Google San Francisco, Google Chicago, Google Portland. Look at the other cities, and then look at New York. When I came into office, we had encampments all over this city. We had overproliferation of guns, just in action in the city. And we came in. You don't see those encampments anymore.
No.
We removed 22,000 illegal guns off our streets. We are driving down the public safety crisis.
As I said, Mr. Mayor, I don't think anybody's come into more crisis than you have. I mean, you're still standing and looking great, so I don't know. I want to eat what you're eating. As my listeners know, this next question is tough for me because my listeners know that I am a child of Holocaust survivors. All of my family was wiped out during World War II, and my parents were the only survivors, and I would not be here. And I want to thank you for your help and standing up with the Jewish community. But I do want to ask you, because it's not just about the Jews in New York.
Right.
It's about hate. It's about the non-radical Muslims. It's about the Catholics. It's about the blacks.
Right.
What can we do in the future to unite all of us? Because it has gotten just so far, and we need a mayor that's going to stand up against all hate, and I want you to talk about that.
And I love that. I love that, I think the greatest level of humility is not only look at what's impacting one as an individual, but how it impacts all. And hate has no place in our city. And there has been a consistency throughout my life. You know, a woman stopped me when I was told me about the story when I was a police officer and a young Polish immigrant was attacked, and I stood with their family to call for the person to be apprehended. I've been doing this all my life because nothing I think is more despicable than when someone is attacked or abused because of who they are. And so my fight against anti-Semitism is also my fight against harmful to my Sikh brothers and sisters, Islamophobia, African Americans, the AAPI community. They were being attacked repeatedly during COVID. And so there's a consistency. And we're doing a number of things. You know, of course, we did the Office to End Anti-Semitism, the Office Against Hate Crime.
That's
also
one of your platforms, correct?
Exactly, yes. We also we do something called breaking bread, building bonds, because we have to be proactive and reactive. Reactive is the role of the police. They must go in and apprehend those who carry out hate crimes. But we have to be proactive. What are we doing to stop feeding the seed of hate? So we have been doing a series of things we call breaking bread, building bonds. 19,000 people have been at these dinners, 10 people at a table, all of them coming from a different ethnic group and background, and doing something revolutionary, talking to each other. Why do you wear a hijab? Why do you wear a yarmulke? What is a Passover? What is Diwali? What is Kwanzaa?
He knows all this. I'm very impressed.
Yes, and it's a good gathering. We want to create ambassadors of peace and tolerance and love in our city, and we want to do it in an organic way. But we must be clear on hate. My hate crime division, the police department, must investigate, and we think the DA should have a no downgrading of crimes policy when someone commits a hate crime.
Let's go on to voting, which is what this is all about, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So currently there are 4.7 million registered voters in New York. About 1.3 million came out during the primary, which so many more people came out than we could have ever expected. I think that's why one of the reasons Mamdani won. Mm-hmm. But that still leaves us 3.7 million voters that have not spoken. My own children could not vote because they were not registered Democrats. So this did not tell the whole story.
Right.
In 2021, only 20% of all voters came out. Mm-hmm. In 1989, 60% came out. Mm-hmm. Mr. Mayor, what are we going to do to get the word out, to motivate people, to explain to them how important it is that everybody gets out and votes, no matter who you're voting for? We need to get out. We need to vote because this is crucial to the United States of America.
And you said something, and this is what I've been saying to people since the primary. Many people go out to vote when they're motivated to vote. Now, you said your two children didn't vote. I bet you they're going to go out and vote now.
100%.
Right.
And their friends.
Exactly.
Or they can't come home.
Exactly. So everyone is talking about the excitement that Mamdani put in place.
Yes.
I see the excitement that's coming from people saying, I want to save my city. No one is reporting on that. No one is talking about the organizing. No one is talking about the structure that's being built out, that people is making sure that they're registered. People are waiting for election day to go out. This is a beautiful moment when you have those who are normally detached spectators and watching the game played out in the field. Everybody's getting on the field now. I've never seen this level of excitement.
So I talked about this morning on John Katz's show this morning, and I'm putting it in the taxis tomorrow, and I would like you to weigh in on this. Mm-hmm. And I think the Post and Fox News and everybody should put this out. If you are a resident and you have a lease or you own an apartment in New York and you live in New Jersey or you live in Connecticut or you've moved to Florida, as long as you have residency in New York and you register to vote 30 days before the election, you can vote. Am I correct?
Yes, and they should do that. They should. If you're here in the city, I think it's more than 51%. You have the right of residency. So they should do that, and they should be encouraged, and they should get out to vote. This race is going to depend on
voters. I have to ask you another question, and don't shoot the messenger, because I know you've been asked this and you don't like the answer, and I won't like the answer, but I got to say it. I have to say it.
Yes.
Current polls, many people don't believe in current polls. They say it's not the future. They don't believe it. Is there any scenario in the world where you would support the proposal to see who's leading in September and unify with one candidate?
Well, first of all, I've never said I didn't like the question. I will answer any question. I don't have a problem answering questions. I like to be candid, transparent, and New Yorkers. Think about this for a moment. The primary had Andrew up 40 points. Day before the election, his team put out a poll saying that he was up 10 points. He lost by 13 points. He spent $25 million reportedly. He got his message out to voters. Voters heard it, and he lost by 13 points. And so they're making it seem like one of the candidates in the race came up with this proposal. This is his proposal. And it is all part of what he does, how he spends things. Everybody in politics know how Andrew is. And so for him to come up with a proposal that he thinks is going to benefit him, the same polling system that stated he was going to win by 40 points, we're now going to use that same system. There's too many new voters that's going to participate.
I understand, but polls do change, and they have changed.
Yes.
We saw it with Donald Trump. We saw it with Andrew Cuomo. We know polls change. But what about if you're in the lead and you need this support so that Mamdani doesn't get in? Would you then agree with this?
Well, no. And let me tell you why. I was 13 points behind in my race for election to mayor. Andrew Yang was beating by 13, 14 points. The guy was walking around with a tape measure, basically saying, let me measure the drapes. Here's the problem. Andrew created this. He knew I was going to be on the independent line. He knew Madani was going to be on the working families line. So why did he add himself to this? He created a scenario.
This is a dirty business. We get that. And whatever his motivation was, it's politics. And I agree with you. It's dirty. I'm asking to save capitalism. If it turns out in the end that we need everybody to unite so that Mamdani does not win, is there any scenario you'll say, you know what, with every result, we have to sacrifice something, and I'm willing to sacrifice for the name of the city? Is there any scenario you'll do that?
And let me call you what sacrifice is. Sacrifice is, being shot at as a police officer. Sacrifice is being wearing that bulletproof vest and standing on corners protecting us, riding the subway system. Sacrifice is going through lawfare, and instead of stepping down, I stepped up. Andrew stepped down from his obligation and responsibility. He didn't want to be mayor.
I feel like I'm talking to my divorced parents. We need a marriage counselor.
He wanted to be governor, and he stepped down from his office. I never stepped down. No matter what I went through, I promised New Yorkers I was going to serve, and I served New Yorkers. He should do the right thing for once for the city and not for himself. I am the sitting mayor of New York. The sitting mayor of New York. What is the logic? That's the highest level of arrogance to tell the sitting mayor of New York City, the second black mayor, you should step down for him to run. He did it to Carl McCall. He did it to Charlie King. He did it to David Patterson. He did similar to Keith Wright. There's a history here. And everyone else said, well, he's Andrew, so let's just do what he wants. That doesn't happen with Eric Adams. If I fought lawfare, I'm going to fight to defend this city. It's not about me. It's about fighting for the city of New York.
But we're talking about in September. We're not talking about now. We're talking about if you're down to a fine edge. I guess we'll get there when we get there. And I appreciate you standing up, and I appreciate you being honest. And you've always been honest, and you can't get more transparent than you are. Is there anything else you want to tell our audience?
I'm running for one reason. I love New York. It's not a bumper sticker.
Brooklyn boy.
It's not a bumper sticker. It's not a T-shirt. It is not some ad campaign. It's in my heart. This city deserves to see the finishing of the job that I started. People told me it was going to take 5 years to turn around our economy. Our economy is the strongest it has ever been in history. Broadway had the best 12
I want
months.
to comment on this because all the commercial space, Type A commercial space is full. You cannot get a commercial lease till 2031. It's all full. You go into a restaurant, it's busy.
That's right.
You go into a bar, it's busy. I agree with you, but we don't want to lose our city.
No,
we
we
don't
don't.
want to lose capitalism because if we lose New York, the country's done.
Well, think about this for a moment on the Miller report. Think about this. One of the biggest problems I faced was bail reform. Andrew did that. Overproliferation of cannabis in our streets. I had to close 1,400 shops. Andrew did that. Still feeling the pain in the morning of those who lost their loved ones in the nursing homes. Andrew did that. Seeing homelessness in our street. Andrew closed psychiatric beds. Andrew did that. The mess he made in Albany, that mess can't come to New York. I fixed his mess, and I need to continue.
Well, I hope that I'm the person that could do the debate between you and Andrew so we can talk about those points. But I will end with, I do hope that you do change your mind if we're very close at the end and it's going to be a matter of one of you, and maybe that's going to be Curtis, or maybe that's going to be Jim Walden, winning so that we could keep out the best city in the world. Never bet against New York. I actually patent that line.
Well, listen, if you're telling us to turn it over to Jim and Curtis, that's scary.
So, folks,
there's one person in this race that has a record. There's one person that's running from their record, and there are three that don't have a record. If we don't want to bet on New York, let's go with the one with the proven record.
who is your favorite mayor? Who is somebody that you looked up to as a mayor?
It's not a one question answer because I had three mayors that I really admired. One, Mayor Bloomberg, very practical, understood how to move the city forward. Mayor Dinkins, his heart was unbelievable. His love of children was really something he talked about all the time. And Mayor Koch, he was authentic New York. He didn't worry about the noise of people. He just did the job. And
We got a black, we got a Jew. Who says you don't bring people together? So what's your relationship with Mr. Bloomberg right now?
Appreciate him so much. He has been extremely helpful to the administration. He loves this city. And each time I reached out and called him, he gave great advice, great insight, because you'll never be prepared for the complexities that are associated with being a mayor. And he was always there, and I cannot thank him enough. He's a great New Yorker, and New Yorkers owe him
I reached out to him, and when this started, I said, would you run? He said, I'm a little old. So thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the Miller Report. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.